Beautiful Michigan and Ohio border, the Swing State Studios, coming to you from, well, people are calling it Candace Corners now. We've lost Summerfield and Secor. Now everyone's calling it Candace Corners. I'll meet you over at Candace Corners or Candace Freedom Corner or, Candace Corners. That's where we are. So the studio has kind of retrofitted all the George Webb stuff, went in the back, all the other folks in the back. Candace Book Club. I can't show it to you. I guess I can show it to you. I could flip around here and show you that all the George Webb stuff going out the door. There's the beautiful Candace Corners there. You see the cars going by at Candace Corners. You see all this stuff. The crew is here. Everything is being moved. Everything is out, being moved here. It's all going. George's stuff out the door. All the other guys into the back. All the other authors, Candace Corners right up front. Why? Because we believe this could be the apotheosis of Candace Owens. It could be the apotheosis of Candace Owens, and that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're into the Candace charrette now. We're into the Candace charrette, 15 days. The Freedom and Research charrette is now in its 15th day. It's held over. It was only supposed to be 12. Toledo is right on the border here. So we're right in a farmhouse that was a farmhouse of the Underground Railroad for people escaping with their lives, trying to escape with their family and their children from hunters that wanted to kill them. So, I mean, this is a very historic place. And this leads into, my piece this morning, which compares Candace Owens to these bigger figures in history. And again, sometimes history thrusts situations upon you that you didn't know you were ready for, and you can either shrink from those responsibilities or you can step up to those responsibilities. This is an unparalleled time in human history and American history where we want transparency. The American people are calling for transparency. We're tired of the not getting the files of the Epstein files. We're tired of the Cash Patel. It must have been Tyler from the roof with the 30-06 that went through C5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and T1. It must be, Man of Steel. People are tired of this. They went through this with JFK, with forward and to the right, with Dan Rather, 14 years before we saw that it was back into the left. We saw this with Bobby Kennedy. Oh, Sirhan was straight on 12 feet away, straight on perpendicular. Oh, no, the gunshots behind his right ear. And we waited 50 years, more than 50 years for that autopsy. The Martin Luther King killed with a Mauser, right? The Mauser untraceable weapon in this Charlie Kirk assassination, which is before World War I, before serial numbers. Of course, it's an ATF signature. So all these things, J6, psychological operation, all these mass shootings, psychological operations. Now we see this Egyptian plane seems to be landing in front of all the mass shootings, right? Why is the Egyptian military plane landing in front of the national shooting and all these other shootings that Candace outlined yesterday? Is this the scripted time for a national, time for a trans shooter? Here comes the Egyptian plane. So we're looking into those, the great Kevin Timmer here this morning. You may know about his Kevin Timmer sniffer dogs that would have saved Charlie Kirk's life if only one person with one dog would have been on that roof, like we recommended for 14 months after the Trump assassination. We recommended one Kevin Timmer sniffer dog. One stops the Charlie Kirk. We said it for 14 months. They laughed in our face. Greetings from South Africa. You saw me with the South African band there in Cape Town on the other day. It was great being in Cape Town and all the incredible researchers in Cape Town. Do I ever sleep? No, I try not to. We just keep going. I just change rooms. But I have a lot of great researchers here helping me. We said as soon as we get the quorum, we're going live, and we're going to continue. We're going to go at 5 o'clock again today with Candace Encore presentations. Again, not saying that she hasn't made mistakes. Phil Lyman tweeted me this morning and said, hey, she made mistakes in reporting on my family and so forth. Phil, you got to understand the bigger picture here. This is all about transparency. This is the American people's last straw, right? This is the last time that American people want to be fooled You heard the Who sing about it. You heard Roger Daltrey sing about it. We don't want to be fooled again, right? He sang that in Quadrophenia in Brighton very clearly. He said that we don't want to be fooled again. That's where the American people are now. They don't want to be fooled again. And they see this hoodwinking happening. Again, they're tired of it. They're sick of it. They're in outrage. Candace is the only one taking all the risks right now. She's wealthy beyond all imagination. She has the American princess dream. She married the person from the British heraldry. She could just retire away on the farm and just ride carriages the rest of her life and have people do mani-pedis and massages the rest of her days, drink English tea, go to Devonshire Teas, have receptions, and never, ever have to go toe to toe with all these people that criticize her every day. But she does. Kind of reminds me of a couple of other citizen journalists we know. So that's what this is all about. We're broadcasting across the pond now. We see George Farmer as sort of an Edward VIII that didn't shun his responsibilities, that didn't turn away from the crown, that didn't say, well, my nation needs me and I'd rather drive sports cars. My nation needs me. I'd rather be flying airplanes. My nation needs me. I'd rather be sunning myself in Bermuda, right? My nation needs me. England may fall. This blessed plot may fall. The land of Shakespeare may fall. Everything may go, but gosh, I have to save my sports car. Right, I really need a tune-up of my 12-cylinder, Stutz Bearcat or whatever the Duesenberg he owned. Right, I need to get another cylinder workup on my plane so that I can do more joyriding on the weekend. If England falls, well, that's just England's problem. Right, I can walk away. I can turn my back on England. I'll go ride out the war in Bermuda. I'll just sun myself here. I'll invent Bermuda shorts. Right, that's the Edward VIII stain on the English people, right? That he turned his back on the English people. And here we have someone who looks a lot like Edward, probably a little better looking than Edward. George Farmer, who doesn't, who when the national spotlight and the world spotlight comes on him, he doesn't turn his back. He says, no, I've got broad shoulders. I can weather this storm. I'll represent a Turning Point UK. If Turning Point UK needs to be the new instantiation of Turning Point USA, if the people in your Turning Point USA have become so befouled, so corrupted, so money grubbing, so mercenary in their actions, if that's what's happened, then maybe it does need to be this Anglo-American joint union between Candace Owens and George Farmer that brings us back transparency. Maybe it does. Everyone says, oh, George Farmer, he's MI6, whatever. I don't really care as long as we get the transparency. As long as we get the transparency, that's what it's all about. So people are saying I'm finally catching up with Candace Owens. We've been watching Candace Owens quite a bit. Remember, Candace can't be there in Utah. I went and burned the shoe leather in Utah because Candace couldn't. And I wasn't watching Candace and reporting on Candace because we were beating the shoe leather in Provo. We were doing the perp walks. We were going in the drop zones for the weapons. We were going on the Mauser walks. We were going in the various places and reconstructing the crime. So that month, people say, oh, there was a month where you didn't follow Candace. That's because I was doing on the ground reporting with people who want to kill you, where the murder had just occurred, and I'm in amongst a den of thieves that want to kill me. So pardon me for not following Candace during that time, but I was doing original reporting. Thank you so much. Does Egypt work with Israel? Yes, they have worked with Israel. There are a lot of, we've had the AI Whisperer is here with me now. The Quantum Whisperer is here in the studio with me now. We went into the fire late into the night, into almost 11 o'clock before I got exhausted and had to go to bed. But we talked about this. We talked about Israel and Israel's proxies, and we talked about the Israel pilots that probably got Eric Braverman kidnapped, or so he wasn't murdered at the 2016 election when he was outing the Clinton Global Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and how those guys had roller bombs. You think there's cameras in UVU? There's cameras all over Manhattan, and two Egyptian pilots rolled roller bombs down 23rd Street, right? One blew up, and one didn't, unexploded, right? They have pictures. We covered it. Does that sound like a diversion to get Eric Braverman out to a kibbutz? If you haven't followed my Braverman series, you can go back on my Substack and talk and look at the Braverman prophecy. But have Egyptian pilots retrieved Israelis before? You better believe it. Out of New York City, right under thousands and thousands of cameras, right? They were able to retrieve Eric Braverman to secret him away. This is the head of the Clinton Foundation. When he turned his back on the Clinton Foundation, he almost was Charlie Kirk. Right? Eric Braverman was almost Charlie Kirk. Remember, we took down and basically mothballed the Clinton Global Initiative because of the Braverman investigation, right? This is the same thing that's going to happen with the Charlie Kirk investigation. Is basically these constructs, these cover-up artists, these people who are not doing their job, the Dan Bonginos and the Kash Patels, and this wall of opacity, right, is going to end. We're going to smash the wall of opacity. I'm with anyone who wants to bring translucency and light and transparency back to the American people. That's what the people in this studio are all about. That's what Candace is all about. That's why we have this worldwide researchathon that's going into its 15th day. So I'm going to go to a couple of the comments here. Thank you very much. Same old playbook from 1963. I couldn't agree more. Here are these assassins, the same assassins that wanted a new drug route so they could cut out the middleman for the French connection. They wanted their own drugs, a straight source of supply, the Chicago mob to Vietnam. They're sending advisors over to General Dynamics. And Kennedy's saying, what the hell are these guys doing? I thought they were supposed to be securing the government of South Vietnam. And all they seem to be doing is setting up opium fields in the Plain of Jars. It seems to be like a big CIA drug running operation. I'm not going for this. I'm going to bring back I.B. Hale and all the General Dynamics advisors. Oh, bullet in the head, bangity bang, 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 back into the right, back into the left, excuse me. Not like Dan Rather said, forward and to the right. Remember, we believed that for 14 years. I'm not with the Dan Rathers, right? I'm not with those people, right? I'm with the people who say, the Zapruder film says back into the left. Sorry, Dan. So here we go. Thanks for all the retweets. And I wanted to go really quickly. How about the Walmart lady on the roof? Yeah, we said 20 different ways they could have stopped this murder with just one person. Kid with a drone, grandmother with caution tape. There's a million different ways this could have been stopped. I've never heard of Destiny before. Well, Destiny and Tyler Boyler. Yeah, you heard a lot about them yesterday. We're going to cover it in detail. We're going to go to the Candace here. Remember, we never do rabbit holes. We only do channels. We only do 8-lane channels from incredibly important point to incredibly important point in our research. Never, ever do rabbit holes, ever. So if you're looking for rabbit holes, you came to the wrong channel. If you're looking for channels and instantaneous transportation between continents, you came to the right place. So we're going to go there. Preach it. We don't need preaching. All we need is facts, and facts and tail numbers. Everybody said Candace is conspiracy theorist because she's talking about tail numbers. They said those are funny, made up, speaking in tongues words. No, they're not. They're actually, that's how the planes, it's not speaking in tongues to say N8888 kg. That's a tail number. N109, N102. That's not speaking in tongues. Those are tail numbers. We're following tail numbers. People say that there's all this, crazy with Candace. No, she's following tail numbers. This is what we did with Jeff Epstein since 2016. So amazing and exciting. It is amazing and exciting. It's great to be here. It's great to be alive. It's great to be a part of something so huge, so big, so all around the world, such a pivotal moment in history. It's great. I don't know what that is. So you get the slip and slide. The Dundee slip and slide we went by yesterday. We saw the sign. It said open. You can come here to the Candace Corners. You can come to Candace Corners and you can go and have a fun ride on the Dundee slip and slide for yourself. There's a big Cabela's there for all the guy hunters. And also the kids and mom will be happy. Everybody will be happy. Let's see. No, I meant excited to see that Candace is finally catching on to what I've been saying. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. She has quoted me several times. She did again yesterday with this Ukrainian connection. Darn it, rewind. Okay, well, don't worry. There's going to be a lot here this morning. It's happening faster than we can keep track of it. The cars are coming by. Everybody's honking. Honk if you love Candace is now a meme going all across the country. People are honking in Cleveland, honking in New York, honking in Philadelphia, honking in Atlanta, honking in Texas. They're honking everywhere because why? They're honking because they honk if you love Candace. We expect the bumper sticker to be out soon. It's happening as we speak. Candace is an agent of chaos. Not really. I wouldn't say that. I think she's trying as hard as she can. She's risking everything, life and limb, and potential assassination for what she said yesterday. What possible benefit and gain is there? She could be out with Edward III flying on a plane in a joyride in the Cotswolds. Why would she be doing this if it wasn't for the good? I agree. It's over for the rest of the country. Bob Dylan sang about it. It's all over now. Baby blue. That's why we painted the walls here baby blue, because we were honoring Dylan. Once you get to citizen journalism, once you get to truth, it's all over now, baby blue. Good morning, the Truth team, truth lovers. Thank you. Happy November. Happy Saturday. I couldn't agree with it more. Candace ain't exposing anything. I disagree with you. I think Candace is doing a very good job. I think she's exposing a lot. It's a fantastic amount of information that's come out. Am I working with Candace? I think we're all working together. I think this is a coalition of the willing, coalition of the people who care about this thing right here. I don't believe that because I feel hurt and I feel wounded for whatever reason from COVID or whatever, that I should be able to suspend the Constitution, right? For me, people say, what's your disagreement with Nick Fuentes? What's your disagreement with Kai Fuentes? This comes before we have a Trump. There's a Trump thing right there, right? Right. There's a Trump sign right there. Does this come after Trump? No, this comes before Trump. Trump's great. Trump's important, but this comes first. Okay. And if Kai thinks, well, our ox has been gored, we're groypers and we've been wounded, our ox has been groyped, we're going to take it in 2028, Trump 2028. No. This is precedence, okay? That's my stand there. That's my only difference with them, right? They can be anti-Israel. We're pro-Israel. That's okay. I don't mind the disagreement there. But when you say this is secondary to this, that's where we draw the line. That's where we draw the line. Okay, we need to get back into the miniature tow missile that hit Charlie. Well, anything that goes through C2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and T1, if you can show me how the tow missile went through them, then that's fine. If there's some technology that I don't know about, then yeah, bring it on. Hello from Kuala Lumpur, Sharon Adelson. We talked about Sharon Adelson's casinos in Kuala Lumpur. I haven't been to them. I've got close. I was in Singapore and saw, I think he has a casino down there. But a lot of money laundering, a lot of Sherry Adelson in the campaign with Trump. We covered how Boris was, just some weird stuff going on at the end of the campaign with Trump and Boris trying to make trouble for Trump. The great Aaron Adler, I spoke with this morning. TPUSA was created in 2012 and Smith Munt was created in TPU in 2012. Yeah. We talked about this last night around the fire, the AI whisperer making the fire last night. The whole TPUSA could have been a collection operation, electronic collection operation. If they flew these planes like this electronic collection plane, this Egyptian airplane that seemed to be going over all the Charlie Kirk events, if they were doing that and collecting phone numbers and collecting the various handshakes for the various phones, with, the Stingray type of thing that they had on the congressional building and the Senate building, remember, with the Owens collecting all the phone numbers and so forth for hacking. They were doing that at all the Charlie Kirk events for 12 years, like they did for the data fence that they did for the Glendale event with the 277,000 phones that they collected. If they were doing that, if it was just a big data collection operation, if the 4K cameras behind Charlie were just doing the facial recognition for Clearview AI and facial recognition, if that's what it really was about, then the whole thing was a Smith Munt operation, and Candace is right to demolish it. George Farmer's right to come in with something with transparency. I hope the Transparency UK isn't the just the UK version of a collection operation for MI6. I hope it is transparent, but so far, from what I've seen about Candace and how she's gone after these murder profiteers at TPUSA, I can only say I'm impressed. We disagree on Israel, but we don't disagree on transparency. Thank you very much for all you do. Ukraine is designed for the new miniature version of the TOW missile. The TOW missile, just to get off on Iran-Contra for a second, it was supposed to be about the TOW missiles that we gave to keep the Iran-Iraq war in an even parity so that Saddam Hussein wouldn't overrun Tehran, right? So Ghorbanifar, remember, this is the Danny Casolaro thing that I write about at gweb.substack.com, gweb.substack, not georgeweb.substack, but the Danny Casolaro Iran-Contra stuff I write at gweb.substack.com. But the TOW missile was supposed to be the Iran in Iran-Contra. Well, we know now that that had almost nothing to do with Iran-Contra. It was misnamed deliberately. What it really was about, it was Arkansas-Contra. It was about drugs in Mina Airport. It was about drugs in one direction and weapons in the other direction. So Iran-Contra had very little to do with Iran, actually. It should have been called Arkansas-Contra, right, with Barry Seal running the drugs back and forth between the two locations. And we have a lot of whistleblowers, Hassan Fuss, Dan Hopsiker reported on the kids, on, all the people that were killed that tried to be whistleblowers and all the people that died. Learned a lot from Dan on that. Wayne Madsen, great investigative reporter, also taught me a lot about Mina. I went to Mina or went to Little Rock so many times. They started calling me Paul Whelan. Is that Paul Whelan here again with the snipers, or is that George Webb, the investigative reporter? I get them mixed up. I see them both all the time, bringing snipers in here to Little Rock. So yeah, but the TOW missile, for those who don't know why it's called a TOW missile, used to shoot a wire, an electronic wire, and hit the target and stick on the target. And usually it was designed for the weak kneecap of the incoming tank, which was, they didn't put a lot of armor on the very top of the tank because most of the missiles would come in from the side. So the idea was, hey, let's shoot a wire that hits the top of the tank, the turret, and then we'll have a missile actually go missile guided by wire, right? So if people are saying this is a missile guided wire thing that killed Charlie Kirk, I think that's what they're saying. And I'm not saying that there isn't TOW missiles being used in Ukraine. I'm not saying there isn't drones being used in Ukraine. I'm not saying Scale AI isn't doing that. I am not saying Alexander Wang, the CEO, isn't getting all that information and sending it to China through DeepSeek Labs. I'm not saying any of that isn't true. But the wire killing Charlie Kirk, I don't see the wire in the picture. One big happy family. Yes, it is one big happy family. Yes, teamwork makes the dream work. I couldn't agree more. Saint, I'm not Catholic. Yeah, the Charlie Catholic thing Candace talked about yesterday, sublimating the Catholic piece. Mark Buckley, who owns this establishment, is a recovering Catholic. Matter of fact, he's a born-again NAR, right? And walked away from his Catholic upbringing. So we'll cover that. NAR came up big time. The AI Whisperer gave me a big NAR lesson yesterday. He's here. So isn't Erica directly addressing what Candace says? No, she's not. I was tagged with you on Twitter with the TOW missile concept. Okay, well, we've put that out there. Trump flying. Okay, let's see. New hypothesis. Many are involved. I don't think that many are involved. I think it's the same group over and over and over. We said it was Machine Gun Charlie from the Al-Qaeda that was inserted into armed queers. I went to Salt Lake City. You would thought everyone would have celebrated me saying, hey, here's the killers. He's here a couple of days after the assassination. He's saying armed queers did it. There should be a celebration. Everything but that happened. Kyle Krasenstein or Servenstein or Seraphin, Kyle Seraphin attacked me for being there and burning shoe leather there. You would have thought there would have been a homecoming parade, a series of window displays celebrating the excellence in citizen journalism. Nothing of the sort occurred. So hi from Northwestern Australia. Love Northwestern Australia. New South Wales, excuse me. Let's see. But I have been to the Western Australia. I've been to Monkey Maya to see the Super Jew, our boy Kash Patel. Aaron Adler is the Super Jew, not Kash Patel. Follow the same. Yes, thank you for following. What a sick world we live in. Well, we're making it better. That's what doctors are for. That's what citizen journalists are. Charlie was a useful, smart person. Charlie could have been, Peter Duke talks about this, a true believer is what you want leading your collection operation. You don't want to tell the leader of your TPUSA that you're collecting faces, that you're basically doing what the CIA did at Woodstock, copying down license plates numbers. You're doing that electronically now with a plane versus doing it with, the old notebooks with the FBI agents writing the license plates at Woodstock, right? You don't want the charismatic leader to know. I wrote a whole Substack on that. Here we go. Bad look for those in skinny black pants the other day too. Yeah, she wore the leather pants, Erica Kirks, to say, "Hey, I'm not in mourning anymore. And hey, I'm kind of sexy too." I don't know. Maybe a little early for the black leather pants. Maybe not. I don't care. I mean, whatever she wants to wear. I think she was kind of saying, "I'm done with my in mourning thing." Right? You forgot I was Miss Arizona, didn't you? Now you kids on the internet can retweet me and my sexy black leather pants. Okay, great. But I'll wear a conservative white smock top to still say that I'm purer than the plow-driven snow. It worked for her, I think. She still is somewhere caught in the middle of this transparency issue. I think she can wear whatever she wants. If she came out and she said, "I want justice for my husband. I'm going to have a press conference today. You're going to see the film of everything I've got. I've been collecting thousands and thousands of phones. I'm going to play them one after the other. I'm going to read them into the record right now, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this." That's what she really needs to do. But working with ensembles of different smocks and leather pants, I don't know if that's quite the answer. We have the automotive whisperer about ready to walk in. All the whisperers. This is the coming together of all the whisperers. The whisperers are coming together now. The Ford whisperer is now in the building. Okay, I work for the tow missile system. That's interesting. Good morning. Thank you. Appreciate your work. Okay, before I go to too many more messages, let me just go to the Apotheosis of Candace Owens so that you can see what I wrote this morning on the Substack. We have a chair right over there for the AI whisperer, the automotive whisperer, if he wants. Let's see. Let's just go to the character I see as Sojourner Truth. People don't remember Sojourner Truth, but she was a key person in the Underground Railroad. And she was just, we got another computer going. But Sojourner Truth was a critical person who risked her life going back and forth. And one of the key routes on the Underground Railroad was through Cincinnati. I went to Miami, Ohio, so I got this Underground Railroad history. And going over the Ohio River was sort of like going over the River Jordan for a lot of families. But when you got over the Ohio-Michigan border, then you were really, like the slave catchers, would have to cross yet another state line. And so that's why I think our farmhouse, where we're having our 15th day, was one of the places on the Underground Railroad. This is why we want Candace to come here. This is why we want John Dames to come here. Discover your roots. She did a Prager University 5-minute video on the history of slavery. Well, if you really want the real history of slavery, you can come and visit us at the farm, which is on the Underground Railroad, where the action really happened, right? Rather than just speaking about it in Sherman Oaks. So that's, but I go to the Sojourner Truth, meaning that the Civil War, Sojourner Truth didn't plan on the Civil War, right? That whole land shift change, that whole seismic change, that tectonic shift, nobody planned it. It's the events that were thrust upon these people. And what Civil War became was this crucible, this demand, this huge thing thrown in your shoulders. And you could either hide from it, you could either go west and say, I'm going to be a Buffalo cowboy or whatever, or you could just ride out the a war and see who won, or you could be a part of something that took a lot of bravery. And this is the same role that I think Candace is stepping into. This is the apotheosis of Candace Owens, which is not just the slaves' freedom now, it's all of our freedom. It's the enslavement of all of us in this dark box, in this opaque black box of lack of transparency. And really, someone has to step forward and release us from these bondages, from these chains, from this slavery that we live in. We are living JFK, RFK, MLK, J6, all these things, J.F. Epstein. We are living in enslavement. We are now have lost the freedom that we fought for, right? We know that now. Charlie Kirk has proved that beyond all doubt. And now we need a leader who is willing to lead us all into the land of freedom, right? Into Valhalla. I'll call it Valhalla. So here's the piece that I wrote this morning on the topic. Looking at Candace as sort of a Sojourner Truth character, as a leader of freedom. You see her leading folks into Valhalla. We believe Valhalla is this state where you actually have freedom. You have transparency in your elected officials. You have transparency in your law enforcement organizations. And again, I go down the list here and compare her to Diana, and I show that she's a lot more tempered by fire. She's a lot more tempered in this hot zone, right? In these national things like Brexit and George Floyd and other things than Diana ever was, right? So, and you get the best steel from the hot, tempered, twisted steel, right? So there's Candace. She's had a long history with Turning Point and Charlie Kirk. You'll see people talk about Diana and talk about her funeral, which is the most watched thing since the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Move over Diana. Nothing to smirch the memory of Diana, but I think this in this time, this national last straw for transparency has snapped, and there's only one person with her stature, with her national footprint, stepping into the breach, and that's Candace Owens. Now, admittedly, with that 5 million person footprint, admittedly, yesterday was one of her most highly watched. That she did an encore presentation that wasn't planned. It was one of the most highly watched, highly viewed, live live streams that she's ever done, right? It shows you the national demand. Again, Ian Carroll is the other one who's got but he's only got 1 million people, right? He's only got 1 million people. He stepped out for the truth on this as well as our group here. But I'm just saying that someone has to step into this leadership position, and I make the case of why it should be Candace Owens. Big shoes to fill. I didn't say big shoes. I said she really has to fill the Cinderella slippers. It has to be a perfect fit, right? It has to be a perfect fit for her to step into Diana's slippers, right? So I do think she has the mettle. She's been tested through these various, Walt Whitman said in our youth, our hearts were touched with fire when he talked about the Civil War. I think this is the same sort of thing that she's gone through as the cultural warrior for the George Floyd things, and then COVID, and then now. Now she's really getting the hot fire because she's getting it from the right. She's getting it from her own people whose beds she feathered. She created TPUSA with Charlie Kirk, right? She got Donald Trump Jr. because they realized the swing voting potential she had, right? She created it, and now these people are money mongering off her hard work, and now she is basically saying, "I need to destroy this monster that I created." Right. So there she is with her Brexit work that just basically got her started. Our other icons in Americana, we have the Marilyn Monroe, the sex symbol icon. We have the class, if you will, the grace and class icon of Jackie Kennedy, both associated with Jack Kennedy. These days of Camelot. These are our Camelot figures. These are our American iconographs, right? Candace goes further, right? Candace goes further. Marilyn Monroe never really got involved in any political issues. Jackie Kennedy did, but did it sort of silently and with that breathy kind of quiet voice. Nothing like Candace Owens. Did they capture the American imagination because they were associated with President Kennedy? Yes, they did, right? But again, there's a lot more glitz into that than substance. Candace, I think I make the case here that there's more substance in the case of Candace. But you can be the judge if you want for yourself. I look at her Prager University work as the early beginnings of these treatises, these 5-minute videos on critical points in American history, right? I think she's more grounded in the history. I think she's more grounded in the taking it to the streets. Right here is her 2020 Cultural Warrior Award she got from the Salem Media Company. No shortage whatsoever of critics. Here's the New York Magazine takedown of her. There's been New York Times takedowns. Everything and everyone has had a shot at Candace Owens, and I put a few of them there just for balance in the reporting. But again, try to win Michigan without having swing voters in Detroit and Grand Rapids and Jackson, right? Try to win Ohio without Cleveland and Cincinnati and Columbus, right? Try to win Pittsburgh. Try to win Pennsylvania without Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, right? You need somebody to take the message to the streets in those areas, right? You can't just sit back and say, well, we've got the red farms, we've got the red farms, we've got the red small businesses, we're good here. No, you need to take it to the streets. That's why we are taking it to the streets here at Candace Corners. Candace Days extended on Saturday. Beautiful day here in Michigan. Happy November, happy Saturday. We're going to be doing Candace research all day today, following up on all the details she dropped yesterday. Those planes, those Egyptian military planes following Charlie all around, and at the national shooting, before the national shooting, and all these planes dropping in with military Egyptian. They can't get their tire changed in Cairo. They have to go to Utah for Charlie Kirk to speak that day in order to get their tire changed. That's why they got to fly from Paris to Utah, right? They're sweeping up all these phone numbers, going to all the Charlie Kirk events. This is a foreign actor, this Egyptian plane. We talked about Machine Gun Charlie, Al-Qaeda being inserted in armed careers. We talked about armed careers in Salt Lake City. But anyway, we're going to be here all day following up on those leads here at Neighborhood News. We got the Candace copter landing area here, Candace copter landing area. We wanted to come in and do the Underground Railroad thing with us and John James. We've got the Candace caravans here on Summerfield and Secor. Summerfield and Secor. Neighborhood News. Oh, we'll take you quickly inside the studio. Gun your engine if you love Candace. Gun your engine if you love Candace. We'll bring it in here. All the George Webb stuff going to the back. All Candace Book Club stuff here. And it's not really going to the back. The George Webb stuff's not going to the back. It's being thrown away summarily. It's being put into the shredder as we speak, the incinerator. There's a bonfire being done in the back. The George Webb stuff is going out quickly. It's leaving the building quickly. But that's okay, because the Candace stuff's coming in here to replace it with all the other books and the Candace Book Club stuff. And some of the Peter Duke Book Club stuff is coming in here. So there you have it. Have a little fun there, but I'll keep going through the Substack here quickly for those who haven't seen it. But we'll go to basically there's the farm for those who want to see the Operation Mocking Pasture. We've been meeting 15 days on Operation Mocking Pasture. We're going to talk about NAR in a second for all those NAR people waiting. When is he going to talk about NAR? When's he going to talk about NAR? It's coming right up. Don't worry about it. It's coming up. Here's Candace when she departed Turning Point USA and left them in good stead. And they said, I hope you kids, can manage the farm while I'm gone. And when she comes back, the barn's on fire, right? The barn's on fire and everybody's profiteering off Charlie's murder, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to say, well, that's not my farm anymore. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to turn my back. Or, hey, I'm going to put the fire out. I'm going to raise a new barn. I'm going to save this. I'm going to get rid of these jamokes out of this place that are trying to do death profiteering, murder profiteering. There's her life. She's the black woman who said George Floyd's not a nice person in 2020, right? That's an understatement. But again, you have to have somebody who's saying, hello and welcome. Come on in. Broadcasting, but go ahead and pull up a chair, grab that nice gamer chair. We just had. I'm just on a quest. Oh, you're on a. No. Oh, you're on a quest. Oh, they're at the end. They're open today. You looking for Fortunate Finds? Yeah. They're right there at the end of the building. This is their old location. Oh, they're closed. Oh. So you guys are. Sorry, broadcasting. Yeah, well, we're at, yeah. Tell him. Here she is with Charlie Kirk, welcoming him to. We just had somebody come. This is a retail location, folks. We're not cloistered away off in Hollywood at some studio. There's the verdict. We don't know the answer if she's the next American Diana or not, but there she is out there making her case, taking it to the streets, taking it overseas, taking it to all the Five Eyes countries, right, on her lecture circuit. And we think so far she's doing a pretty damn good job. There we are, though. We're gonna keep going, even though the haters gonna hate, right? We're still going retail here, and we're having the Candace Corners free, open. Anybody can come in. You just saw somebody come in. Hey, you know, you want to watch? Just have a seat. Then there we are at the Candace Corners. So we'll leave it right there. We're going to go back to all of the comments here. And okay. Candace said the plane diverted from St. George. Citizen journalist, Fast and Furious. Yep. It was a beautiful story. I wrote a story on that of a Substack. Ukraine is a miniature version, using a miniature version of the TOW missile. Great. We'll look up on that. Any chocolate-coated honeycomb will be similar. Don't know what the chocolate-coated honeycomb is, but it's like an English crunchy bar. Oh, I've had those. We used to call those milk bars. Let's see. Israel switching to bricks. Oh, that'd be interesting if Israel switched off the dollar. I thought they had the shekel. Tyson Foods was in on the drug running. Yeah. Tyson met with Bill Clinton every week on Saturday night. Tyson was flooding the river there near Mina with so much chicken shit that it would have been shut down. And Bill Clinton met with him, and he was one of the biggest contributors to Bill Clinton. Do you expect implications with Charlie's death? Yes, transparency. It's going to cause a huge thing. My pet goat, George Bush. We brought over the George Bush's pet goat. That Billy goat is now at the Underground Railroad farm as we speak. I don't believe he's dead. Okay. Let's see. Nice to have you here. Say hello. Camper guy. Yep. Okay. Hello. Everywhere, catching everyone's plate. Yes, these are big sweeping surveillance operations, and it could be, as Aaron Adler said, the Smith Munt could have come in at the same time as TPUSA. It was just a big sweeping program, sweep everybody up at college campuses without the knowledge of Charlie Kirk and or Candace Owens. She's coming to that realization now. True believers, when they come to the realization, they become crusaders for truth and transparency. What is NAR? NAR is New Apostolic Revival. And the idea being the apostle, I think the operative word in NAR is apostle, and apostles obviously were somehow divinated by God to tell God's truth in the Bible, right? So the apostle Paul, the apostle so-and-so, the apostle this, the apostle that. Somehow there was this divination, this divine dominion that gave them the auspices to speak on the behalf of God, right, in the apostles. So sort of like the Gospels, I think the apostles and the Gospels are closely related, Mark, John, Paul, etc. And so the idea that there could be a new apostles arriving on earth now, right? This is pulling the divination to now. This is the channeling and saying, now I'm channeling. I have a prophecy today. God spoke to me today, and here's God's prophecy, right? This is what it is. And that revival, that NAR revival, is what we're talking about. And Charlie was NAR. All the people on Real America Voice with Bannon, I think at 8 o'clock in the morning on Real America's Voice, I think it is, was 8 to 10. And then from 10 to 12, I think, was Charlie Kirk's show, and then Jack Posobiec coming on in the afternoon. But that's NAR. That's the New Apostolic Reformation. So that's what NAR is. Try not to use all caps. Please. All caps get you the Dundee slip and slide, unfortunately. If you don't know the rules, you enjoy the slip and slide. Capital letter users go in the naughty corner. Yes, they do. She pushed Trump and ignored reality. Okay. You said last week was blindly grabbing straws. No, I didn't. But thanks for trying. What I said was you have to imbue your research with shoe leather, right? And we were that shoe leather for Candace and her folks. And she took some of our stuff, and other stuff was just kind of floated. But most of the stuff we did from the actual walks and so forth, and the Uncle Mikey research we did and everything, she started picking that up. And that's the direction we want to see this go. Same thing we did with Epstein. Tail numbers, tail numbers, tail numbers. And when we're done with tail numbers, show me some more tail numbers. Show me some more flight aware stuff. Show me some more names of known terrorists and so forth. So yeah, big hug, the tow missile. I don't want to do much more on the tow missile. See, do you believe the same folks are involved in the attempt on Trump? Hard to say. You know, Venezuelan passports for Iranian terrorists that want to kill Trump. Would you let those guys land in Miami like the FBI in Miami did? They did. Why would you let them land in the FBI? Why would you let people that you knew had said wanted to kill Trump, Ardestani and Farahani, why would you give them Venezuela passports and land them in Miami? Cash Patel, why don't you look into that? Those guys were circulating in the United States as assassins. So, you know, I don't know. There was $1 million given at the airport to murder Trump, right, by an Iranian bagman. Why isn't that an important thing to research? We said it was rooftops for 14 months. Why did Charlie Kirk get killed supposedly from a rooftop? Let's see. Serious. I'm going to go to Candace's video now. We're going to go and just kind of do a start, stop, watch party on Candace's last video.